Well, this is a special treat for us in Latinos US. This time I have a Latino who is living in Nashville and who is a fantastic and outstanding, he's not a shrink, but close to it. And he's just wrote a book. And this is my friend who was born actually in Cuba when he was a little baby. And then he came to the States. His mother was Cuban, his father is Spaniard. And I am very proud to say hello to him because he just came out with a fantastic, fantastic book on the connection between mind and body. May I introduce you to my dear friend, Mario Martinez, Dr. Mario Martinez. Mario, how are you today?
Doing great. A pleasure to be here with you again, my friend.
I mean, the pleasure, it's mine. Tell us about this new book. Do you have your book there? In because I know it's been published
Yes,
in English.
it came out in Spanish recently, and it's a bestseller in Spanish. And this is the English version. This is an Amazon, of course. And it's about 20 years of research that I've done in working on how the mind and the body communicate with each other. And I found that it's not just something intellectual, that it has to be contextual in a context, and it has to be the way that the brain processes information with just with evidence, not with intellect. So if somebody hurts you, they hurt your mind body, and you can't fix the hurt at the mind. It has to be the mind body, and that's what I teach in the book: how to actually work through the vicissitudes of life, how to work through uh, forgiving, how to work through the loss of a relationship, unrequited love, all those kind of things. But it's done at the mind body level, not intellectually.
Mario, you said something in your book that I was very interesting. That it has to do longevity or centennial has to do with culture. You say it's only 20% genetical, but it's 80% what?
80% is partly what I call the usual suspects of wellness: uh, lifestyle, exercise, meditation. But those are necessary, but not sufficient. The interpretation that you make of the world is what matters. So, for example, centenarians don't work out, they don't meditate, they eat whatever they want, but they do everything with moderation. They stay active, they don't meditate, but they're very introspective. So they do it indirectly based on life rather than a some kind of a program where you go work out and like we do. And I work out, by the way, but they do it in a different way. And that's that other 80%.
You mentioned in one of the talks that we have had that Japanese people uh, placed menopause and andropause as part of the second or the new spring, and you tell me the Japanese term for that, instead of being ashamed of it. What's your take on that?
The the Your biology will respond to your belief system. If I tell you now, what a great hat, you're such a wonderful person, you're going to have endorphins, oxytocin. If I say, what an idiot you are, you're going to have molecules of inflammation, tumor necrosis factor, C-reactive protein. So we're a bioinformational field. So whatever you perceive in your environment has a biology behind it. So if your biology says, or your belief says, when I get to menopause or when I get to this age, this is what's going to happen, then your biology will follow to a very strong degree. If you have the belief that when you get to, for example, menopause, it's Konenki, the second spring, then you're looking forward.
Okay.
Konenki is looking forward to it. And there's something called the grandmother effect. Most animals get sick or age very quickly after they lose their the ability to reproduce. Most of them do, except the killer whale. The killer whale, that's why they call it the grandmother effect. The killer whale and humans continue beyond their times of fertility because they become guides for the younger generation. The killer whale will be a guide for the pups to take them away from danger, to take them to the food. And that purpose, Aristotle said that life requires purpose. That purpose has a powerful immunological value that moves you into longevity.
Fantastic. I have to say something. Being in Latino in the US uh, can be a curse or can be a blessing. And because we have to get the best of the two worlds. what would you recommend for Latinos living in the US to bring to their own lives to be better, to accept things like I just said, if you're Latino, if you have it, blunt it. I mean, if you have it, just be what you are and don't be ashamed of it because being ashamed of it will make you unhappy. But if you got it, flaunt it, no, and take it as it is. I would say that.
Yes, you become a hybrid, the best of the U.S. and the best of Mexico. But I'll give you an example of how powerful it is at the level of the molecules. There was a study that looked at telomeres. Telomeres are at the end of the chromosomes, and they protect them from getting tangled. But also the length of telomeres will tell you how much that cell is going to divide. So it's not a good indicator for as they think for longevity, but it's good. It's a good to have longer telomeres is good. What they did is they had three groups. They had a group of white Americans, they had a group of Black Americans, and they had a group of Mexicans. And they looked at their socioeconomic level. And then they looked at the uh, ones who were in the lower socioeconomic to the middle class. The lower socioeconomic were the first generation. The middle class, as far as the Mexicans, were people that were cultivating into the American and all that. When they looked at the telomeres of the whites, the poor whites, they had shorter telomeres than the wealthy whites, which means that they could buy telomeres by their socioeconomics. The blacks, because they had the prejudice and all that, the telomeres of the lower socioeconomic and the higher socioeconomic, pretty much the same. They couldn't buy telomeres because of their shaming. Mexicans were the ones who gave an example. The ones who were in the lower socioeconomics had better telomeres than the second socioeconomics. And the reason is that the first generation, when anybody gave them any kind of a slur, any kind of a cultural slur, they would get angry, what's called righteous anger. The second generation, when they give them the slur, they felt embarrassed and humiliated. And that alone dropped the level of the telomeres.
Fantastic. I've never heard of that. And you mentioned in another talk that we had that we Mexicans have something that is really healing for us, is the Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Death. And we're now celebrating. You can see in New York our Catrinas. You can see our altars to the dead, our flores de cempasúchil, and everything there. How does that work from the point of view who, and your title is psycho, no, it's not psycho.
Oh,
Psych,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Psychoneuroimmunology. You got it right.
psychoneuroimmunology. That's a complete the complete phrase. It's a mouthful. But tell us how it's going to help us Latinos to be united, because that's one of the problems we have in the U.S. All Latinos that we don't unite. Uh,
Yes.
like the Jewish people unite, like all Jews unite, like all the blacks unite and their brothers. But like Latinos, we sort of tend not to mingle together and work together. That's one of the main problems we have.
Yes.
How does Dia de Muertos is going to help us there?
Well, because we know now from psychoneuroimmunology and my work with centenarians and longevity that rituals are very powerful immunological enhancers. The ritual of the tea with the Japanese, the ritual of having food with family, and the ritual of El Dia de los Muertos is very powerful because what it does is that bonding, coming together and celebrating together, creates endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. So it's a very powerful thing. Some other cultures say, "Oh, that's so bizarre to go to the cemetery." It's very powerful immunologically.
Absolutely. That's Latinos have a lot of ceremonies and cultures and traditions. Let's go. Like people don't understand the word quince años. I mean, quinceañeras are the presentation of a girl into society, and they
Another
spend
ritual.
a lot of money and say that's useless. It's not useless. It's a rite of passage.
It's a rites
And
of
that's
passage.
very important things that we Latinos have. Don't lose it. And when you have a bachelor's party, it's also rite of passage as well as a huge body that it's all dressed up because it's going to be a wedding. So, Mario, you're really fantastic on what you're saying, how this can help us. Show me the book again, please. Will you please, please, please?
This is the Mind Body Code,
Okay.
and it's
And,
published by Sounds True.
okay. And would you show me the Spanish version, please?
And the Spanish, which is Penguin Random House, El Código Mente Cuerpo. Oh, by
Okay.
the way, last week it was #1 in Mexico, Amazon.
Wonderful.
So,
I'm putting down here the link so you can buy it in Spanish or in English, both, but it's worth it. And I'm going to try to convince and talk Mario into being one of our regulars, especially when we're
of
talking about
course, of
Latinos in the
course,
US and also people of age, elders, tercera edad, whatever you want to call them, because what he is bringing to us as a Latino and a support to bring our age to bloom again is something extremely important. Mario, I really thank you and muchas gracias por toda tu ayuda y al fin de cuentas somos latinos.
un placer. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Terminamos con tu libro de los dos lados, con las dos, uno en cada uno para tenerlo
No hay excusas porque están en español y en
y en
inglés.
inglés. Y lo podemos traducir al chilango, al cubano, al patrón, lo que necesite. Muchísimas gracias, Mario, y seguimos en contacto. Y
Un placer.
arriba, dedos arriba, thumbs up por los dos libros y que siga
Gracias.
el éxito. Gracias,
Muchas
Mario.
gracias.